ISA Sports Guys, top of the Cable Ready Studios here in Norwalk, Connecticut. It's time for the 5 and 10, everybody's favorite segment here. We got to give ourselves a bunch of time because we're not going to be able to keep this under 2 minutes, but we got to talk about the Raider trade. Now, I want your reaction from it. Do you like it? Go.
My initial reaction was, I love having Carson Palmer.
Yeah.
Then I thought the conditional pick would be like a 7th round pick. Then I see it's a 2nd round pick, and if they make it like to the division playoffs, it's a 1st round pick, 2 1st round picks. Mm-hmm. That's what they got for. That's what Eli Manning was worth when he was a franchise quarterback
as a rookie. Yeah.
And they just drafted Terrell Pryor. So do I like Carson Palmer? Yes. Am I happy he's here? Yes. Is he worth 2 picks? Not even close.
I think it is a terrible.
So did I.
Terrible.
It's the first thing I said to him. It's awful.
And he liked it. When I texted him, he said he liked it.
I thought the conditional pick. Remember, you even said 2 first. I go, no, it's a conditional pick. I'm thinking that's a 7th round pick.
Best case scenario, you want them to make the playoffs. Now it's 2 first-round picks.
But when you give up a 1st round pick, that you should expect the guy to make the playoffs anyway. Why do you get to give him another 1st round?
And
pick?
then
they have to win the playoff game.
You're right. So they got to win the playoff game. So if they don't win the playoff game, then what will you?
No, it's actually you have to win like the division or like you have to get to the AFC Championship.
Oh, I thought it was just one game.
It's not just any game.
I'm
but
sorry.
Even though it's still a 2nd round pick,
I thought you had to get to the division.
But a 1st and a 2nd is still awful.
That's what I'm saying. So the worst case is they don't make the playoffs, which is a very real possibility. And now you're losing a 1st round and a 2nd round pick. And my big thing is now Carson Palmer is your quarterback for the future. That's my biggest problem with this trade.
I don't mind that he's the quarterback of the future, but the one thing I wanted to say was everybody says this is what Al Davis would have done. No, he wouldn't have, because what he would have done is he loves guys like Terrell Pryor. To a fault, he gives those guys a chance to fail.
Yeah, exactly.
See Jamarcus Russell, see all these other guys. He would have never drafted Jamarcus Russell as a quarterback, and then Jamarcus Russell hasn't even stepped on the field. Terrell Pryor hasn't even stepped on the field, and he's already drafted a guy who has to be there for 3 or 4 years. Now you can tell me, well, you can cut him, but you still owe him a lot of money, and it's going to cap hit. It's not worth it. Now, I like him as a quarterback. I think Hugh Jackson fell in love with him from where he was when Hugh Jackson coached him, and he's not that same player.
He's coaching.
If he's that same player, great trade.
Yeah, but why would you think he would be that same player? He hasn't been that player in 3 years. He's never won a playoff game, right? And if you really thought, you could have gotten him in the offseason. Here's my thing. If you were willing to give up that kind of stuff for him, 2 first-round picks for him, they could have got him in the offseason. If they really thought, Jason Campbell brought them to a 4-2 record. Yep. I don't think Jason Campbell's a great quarterback, but he's an average NFL quarterback. He's not a bad quarterback. And so now you're saying we don't like, he gets injured. He's only out 5 or 6 weeks. Yep. Now they're willing to make a full franchise quarterback change. We're saying now we don't want Jason Campbell. We want this guy. If you really wanted that, why didn't he do that in the offseason?
And what did he do with Terrell Pryor?
Well, yeah, Terrell Pryor to me.
But you wasted your 3rd pick on Terrell Pryor.
Right. So, well, it's just a good call. And I didn't like that pick to begin with. But you've wasted that. If you really didn't like Jason Campbell to the point when you really thought Carson Palmer was this great of a quarterback, you could have given up 2 first-round picks in the offseason and gotten him, I'm sure. Because the Bengals weren't going to trade him unless something great came in their lap. And now for the Bengals, all of a sudden they're the best franchise in the NFL.
Very quickly, no matter what happens, I was talking with my friend Danny about this, no matter what happens, I don't care if he wins 5 Super Bowls, a trade is never good just because of how it turns out. The fact is, he was not worth this. He would have never gotten half of this on the market, so it's a bad trade. I don't care what he does afterwards. I hope he plays well, but it's still a bad trade because he didn't deserve to give up those many picks. You could have gotten Carson Palmer and still been good and still had draft picks.
Think Al Davis is around that happens, that trade?
It doesn't, because they just got, that's what I'm saying, they just got Terrell Pryor. Al Davis, to a fault, would have said, we drafted Terrell Pryor, let's give him a shot. Terrell Pryor would have been awful, but he would never have done this.
And why does Carson Palmer get such a pass in the fact that he quit on his team and his teammates? It's the best thing that happened to the Bengals because now they got a legit quarterback who wouldn't have gotten a chance to play because Dalton is very good, and they got 2 first-round worst.
All that being said, it's a good trade for the Raiders. He may play this week somehow, like he knows the playbook.
He's going to play.
Well, he's definitely going to play.
Doesn't say a lot about the Raiders' playbook.
How is that possible?
And at the end of the day,
guy has not
if
played.
Carson Palmer knocks out the Jets, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Well, it's like, what other options do you have? You go with Bowler?
Someone who knows the playbook. That's all I'm saying.
I'd rather have Palmer go than Bowler.
Move on. We'll see. This is yet to be determined.
Let's stick with the NFL trades. Normally there's not a lot of trades at the deadline.
Yeah.
And there really wasn't.
There were a couple decent ones though.
There was a couple. Ronnie Brown moved, but to me, what surprised me, and it kind of just flew under the radar, but Brandon Lloyd getting traded to the Rams for I think it was a 5th round pick, 6th round pick, 5th round pick.
Yeah.
And he's a legit wide receiver.
1,700 yards or 1,400 yards last year or something?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah. How is that? How is his value a legit number 1 wide receiver, a 5th round pick, and a guy who hasn't played all year is going to get thrust in the thing, 2 first round picks. It's so bizarre to me.
You can't compare them.
Why not?
Well, I mean, you can't compare them. I mean, like, it's just not even worth it. It's clear that people hate Brandon Lloyd because a guy who led the NFL in yards per catch, you have a new quarterback who everyone is waiting to fail, and you trade this guy. That tells me you hate this guy. That tells me there's something wrong with him.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not physical. Like, he's the biggest clubhouse cancer in the world or something.
I don't know, dude. You're probably right. There's probably a lot more behind it.
Yeah, of course.
But I mean,
what's his name? Who's good? Josh McDaniels out in St. Louis too. I think offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I know why the Rams did it. Yeah. Why would the Broncos do that trade when they just changed quarterbacks?
I don't know. I was shocked at that.
Totally
he was giving up for that little amount of money. I mean, that little amount of compensation. Let's shift gears a little bit to baseball. We talked a little about the Red Sox and their woes last week, but there's been a lot more revelations in the last week. Now there's this big, rally beer controversy, whether they were drinking beers.
Popeyes.
Now the debate is whether they were drinking beers in the clubhouse or drinking beers in the dugout.
Yeah.
And to me, I can't imagine they were possibly drinking beers in the dugout.
Doesn't matter to me.
To me, it doesn't really matter, but it does to the point where if they really were drinking beers in the dugout, had solo cups of beer in the dugout, then that's way over the top.
Let me say that.
It's not new that players are drinking beer in the clubhouse.
If you drink in the clubhouse, that is not a reason why your team lost. I mean, if you drink in the dugout, that's not why your team lost, but that's why you need to fire your manager, which is fine. That's a good point. John Lester said it perfectly. Johnny Damon and those guys openly talked about how they took shots before games.
Yeah.
And because they won, when you win, you're just a funny idiot. When you lose, you have an alcohol.
They were known as the idiots. Right? They were known as the crazy guys, and that whole mentality was one of the reasons. If you watch the documentary about them beating the Yankees in 2004, like the whole Red Sox documentary, they talk about how they were these bunch of knuckleheads, and they were the only type of clubhouse that could have come back from 3 games down against the Yankees. And so that works then, but now it doesn't work.
The 86 Mets, famous Game 6, they always talk about Keith Hernandez was drinking a beer in the clubhouse when the rally. Kevin Mitchell, who was pinch hitting, was on the phone making plane reservations because he thought the game was over. So if they lost, it would have been like, oh my God, these Mets, they're awful. What's going on? And then all of a sudden they win. It's just a funny story, like how amazing they thought they were done.
100%.
It means nothing.
It doesn't. It didn't.
But ordering chicken's a little like, come on.
To me, that didn't even bother me.
No, it did, but it's a little weird.
It doesn't really bother me because look, I mean,
Popeye's chicken.
It's funny. It's a funny story. But clearly, it didn't impact their performance on the field.
That's not why John Lester got ripped.
Right. That is the persona of the Red Sox.
Yeah.
It did lead to them saying, okay, at this point, this persona didn't work. We need a whole change, and that's why it led to Frank Corner getting fired.
Absolutely.
But to me, the idea that that is the reason why they lost is ridiculous. But the idea if they were sitting there in the dugout, solo cups full of beer.
Have you ever had a rally beer?
During playing a game now. Softball. I've drank plenty of beers in the middle of a softball game.
Oh, yeah? Right.
Yeah. But never in the middle of a hardball game, though.
I've had a rally burger.
Yeah.
Truth be told.
God bless you. All right.
Being honest, right?
Number 4, we're going to shift gears a little bit. Got to talk about some tri-state area football, high school football.
Yeah.
The big matchup, highly touted matchup. Mike Quick from MSG was at the game. Norwakai against New Canaan. I picked. We both had picked Norwakai to beat New Canaan at home, and I think they got a little bit exposed here, in that this is their first. It was their first big matchup. I thought that they just had the talent to win. They had the athletic ability to win. But you look at a team like New Canaan, they have such a strong program where these kids have played within the program for that long. And this quarterback, you saw him. That quarterback is legit. I think he's throwing a U-Pen.
Throwing the ball everywhere.
He must have thrown. I don't know the stats. He must have thrown the ball for 280 to 300 yards. And he was making passes, Tony, on the run, rolling out on the run, 50 yards.
Two things about that game. I walked into that game. Norwalk had every inch of momentum they could possibly have. They had scored a touchdown. They got that turnover on that fumble, which the guy thought he was down. Norwalk has the ball, and it just quickly turned after the first quarter because the New Canaan offensive line nothing got by them. So it was like...
Well, they lost their DN. He got hurt. He went out and got carted off with a shoulder injury or something.
The quarterback is good, obviously. He has a strong arm, and then you get him all day to throw. At some point, it's nothing against the Norwalk defense. At some point, in any level of play, somebody's going to get open.
You can't cover a guy for 5 seconds, and he was not getting touched. I didn't see him on his back once, other than the fact when he's scrambling.
So when I look at that game, while they were exposed in terms of their talent level facing a New Canaan team, it also makes me think, well, you know what? Maybe that's just a one-off. That's a team that's clearly like they're playing a different type of offense.
Yeah.
But I'm going to give him a little pass. Saying
here's why I'm not giving him the pass.
Okay.
2 things. One is we've talked about their running game every week here. I did not think that they ran the ball nearly enough.
I didn't know where Tomar was.
Tomar didn't really get a lot of burn until the fourth quarter, and then in that drive when they scored to make it 28-14, he got a lot of carries. They played really well. And second of all, if you watch the game when they played McMahon the week before, either they saw something that Norwalk didn't see, and they were able to move the ball because they were moving the ball up and down the field. And they were able to throw the ball out, and they were able to run the ball out. McMahon had the game won, and then their quarterback hurt his ankle, and he was hurt and led them back in the game. Either that or McMahon is a much better team than Norwalk High, and that makes your 13-3.
Well, that was the other thing. I took away from that game was that when I see how well McMahon played against them, now it makes me think, you know what, that Thanksgiving game. Obviously, it's going to be a good game because it's a rivalry and it's Thanksgiving. Now that it's going to be even more exciting because Norwalk is still a very good football team, and I expect them to bounce back this week. But McMahon is clearly no slouch.
We talk a lot about Norwalk High. We've tried to get somebody in from McMahon for a while, but McMahon lost 2 back-to-back heartbreaking games where they had leads in the fourth quarter against Staples and New Canaan, 2 top 10 ranked teams. They could have beat either one. They should have beat both of them. They beat Wilton this week. McMahon is no joke. McMahon is a real threat. And, I mean, they could run the table for the rest of the season now.
And well, you know Coach Ireland got those guys. He took those guys right after the game and gave them, from what you heard, was an inspiring speech.
Yeah.
So I expect them to bounce back. Well-coached teams usually do.
Yeah.
And they're a well-coached team.
They got, from when I talking to Mike
This has become a big game.
This game right here, coming up this week, the Norwalk High plays Richfield. It was another ranked team.
Yeah.
I think they're 4-1. I talked to Mike Quick from MSG during this game, and he says he thinks Richfield is better than New Canaan. So this is gonna be
really,
and this is at Richfield. He thinks Richfield's a better team than New Canaan, and
do they run the same offense? Because I just think that offense is gonna give
Richfield's a big team. They're they're more of a bruising.
I think
I think is gonna give Norwalk more fits size wise.
Well, I don't know about the size, but I know that the Norwalk mentality is of pound it and punch in the face. So I think that maybe mentality-wise, they match up well. I think that just from the whole get-go, that New Canaan team just runs a type of offense that was going to give them...
There's not a lot of high school teams in...
New Canaan offense is ridiculous.
They're running a spread.
It's been like that for 10 years.
They run an offense like you would see in Florida high school
that's exactly right.
or Texas high
school.
They
do it well.
They do it well. And Coach Marinelli has been there forever, and he's won 5 state championships in the last 10 years, whatever. So, they're kind of like the elite program here with Greenwich and Staples and
Best of luck to them. I would love nothing more than for Norwalk to get
for them to go up. If they go up and beat Richfield this week, that would be a huge win coming off this.
I hope Tomar has a huge game.
They got to give Tomar the ball more. You know that.
You know I love the guy.
You were mad. You were angry.
No, I was not angry.
You were angry.
You know what? Coach Allen's done a great job. He's got the pulse on his team. He's got a finger on the pulse. He knows what's going on.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, he knows a lot more about his team than we do. We're kind of running out of time here. I don't know. You just want to do like a little potpourri here?
Yeah.
What do you got?
I got to talk about. I don't know why this, but Lindsay Lohan. This whole thing that happened today.
Lindsay Lohan has closed it out.
She basically again, whatever you call it, jumped parole, whatever.
What did she do? I gotta be honest with you. I did not follow it one day.
She was arrested like 15 times.
I know she stole a necklace. Was the last I heard. Is that what she got arrested for again?
No, her parole should have been over a year ago, but she kept violating it by not showing up. So she was told to do community service, and the judge couldn't have been more specific, saying you have to do 4 hours at a time at this place. You can't just go and do whatever you want. You go to this place, you do 4 hours at a time for a number of hours. She doesn't do it. Yeah. She just didn't show up. 9 times she didn't show up, so they threw her out. So they canceled her. They fired her. So she goes out there, and her lawyer is saying, like, well, judge, she did this and that. And the judge is like, I don't know what mumbo jumbo you're talking about. I told her to do something. She didn't do it. Yeah. So how can you tell me she's in compliance? And you see Lindsay over there, like, mouthing something, like, writing something, like, to her lawyer.
She's like Brian Gumbel.
And finally the judge is like, Miss Lohan, like, thinking to herself, are you serious? Like, what could you possibly be saying? And she's like, well, she has to work, but then, because she has to support her family, but she had trouble getting jobs.
Support her family?
You're like, God knows. So anyway, the only thing I want to say is Lindsay Lohan, ridiculous.
We just waiting for her to go to court one day and just be like, listen, cuff that girl, you're going to jail for a year.
Yep. November 2nd, that's when she's going.
You think she's actually going to go?
Yep, that's it for this week. Lindsay Lohan, would love to have you on the show if you ever get out of the clink.
Talk, yeah.
Have a good week, everyone, with the Tri-State Sports guys.
We'll get one of her phone calls.